Okay. Stop it! Oh, the most ratchetest video.
Yeah, I get that.
So you don't do that bite anymore, okay? So don't worry about it.
Okay. No, I didn't even like try.
Oh, that's yours in the corner.
I like had that. That's my personal life. Stop recording.
They don't know who you are. I'm not starting over
Is that
again.
Liz Green? Let's me on YouTube, Liz. You're excited about it.
So you didn't mark the midline, so let's pretend the midline is somewhere there, okay? So we'll always mark the midline of the wax cream is supposed to match the midline of the head, right, of the face. So in order to set teeth, basically, there are many ways that we choose the size of the teeth. You can have previous casts, previous dentures for a patient, and from there decide that. Sometimes I measure the width of the head. If you measure from zygoma to zygoma, divide that measurement between 16, it gives you the size of the central incisor. So there are many ways to choose teeth. And then the shade, same thing. Patients always want a light shade. So how we do set teeth? There are a few things that you guys will make mistakes. So just to remind you, remember you set up the pin at 0, okay? So always, once in a while, check that the pin is at 0, because as soon as you start with removing this wax, this will start dropping, and if we are moving the pin up and down to set the teeth, because that's in the middle of the teeth, in the middle of the setup. So once in a while, always check that the pin is at 0, okay? Because especially when we start setting the posteriors, we may lose that reference, okay? So today we'll start. I will show you how to set the first 6 maxillary anteriors, and then the goal today will be setting the maxilla and the mandibular anteriors, okay? Now, another common mistake is remember how much horizontal and vertical overlap we want. The horizontal overlap, you always want at least 2-3 millimeters. Why? Because if these teeth are touching, when you go side to side, they will contact, and we don't want any contacts and lateral excursions on your anterior teeth. Who's stuck in there? Turn that.
DT team.
Thank you.
DT.
Yeah. Thank you. So we want at least 2 millimeters of horizontal overlap, okay? And then vertical. How much vertical we want?
0.5 to 1 mil.
0.51. I always actually want 0, okay? Because when I go straight forward, I just want my teeth like this, okay? So I don't want anything like a normal, natural teeth, okay, that you have an anterior guidance. In dentures, this goes like this way, okay? So if we set the teeth in 0 or 0.5, it's okay. But I don't want any vertical overlap. Make sense? Okay.
Why do we?
So no vertical overlap.
Why the difference with dentures?
Because on dentures, there are things. In a normal dentition, let's see how we do. We have an anterior guidance, which means we have canine occlusion that we don't want that in dentures, and also the teeth slide on the lingual, the mandibular slide on the lingual of the maxillary, right? On dentures, we don't want that, because if you have that, the denture will drop like this on the posterior. So what you want is a contact only in edge to edge, and then some posterior contacts at the same time, so the denture doesn't drop down.
Okay.
That's the main reason. Okay? And in lateral excursions, it depends what contacts we want. It depends on what kind of occlusion you have. Basically, there are 3 main occlusions: monoplane, lingualized, and bilateral balance. I don't know if you guys understand of these occlusions, but whenever we start setting the posterior teeth, we'll review all 3. Okay? So it makes things easier to understand. What we'll set is bilateral balance occlusion, I think, with Dr. Moreno. That's what you guys want. But the setup of the 6 anterior teeth, maxilla, mandible, are the same for either of the 3 occlusions, okay? So when we start setting the posteriors, we'll talk a little bit more about occlusion. But for now, I just want you to set the 6 teeth with 2 horizontal, 0 vertical. Make sense? So now, basically, you really, if this is perpendicular or parallel to the interpupillary line, we don't really need the articulator now. You can just start working like that. Always work with your cast. Don't work with this by itself, okay? And then what we need is a good spatula.
Do you mark on the cast at all? Do you like marking on the cast?
What marks?
When you like circling the papilla, the incisive papilla.
The only marks that I do is on the mandible when I'm setting posteriors. My reference for the maxillary anteriors is my midline because I'll set my teeth here. And the incisal edge of the teeth is exactly where I made my wax frame, okay? So that's my only reference for now. So I hope you all guys have one of those, or we can use those too, I guess. So remember this plastic ruler? We'll use this as a reference to set up the curvature, okay? So basically we're setting two teeth, right? Center. So there are a few techniques and everybody has their own technique. These spatulas are pretty bad because if I turn it like that, I burn myself. So it should be a longer spatula and a thicker. So if you guys want to buy a good spatula, this has to be thick so the heat stays longer. If it's pretty thin, you just need to start heating it all the time, which is bad. These things are for kids. They buy this for kids. I hope you guys have a better. So another thing that happens is you guys just spend too much time on this. And don't spend too much time because when we start setting the posteriors, we may need to move the anteriors again slightly. So don't get too crazy setting this, okay? So be sure it's hot, and then from my midline, I'll just melt the wax right there. Okay?
We're gonna spend 20 minutes
And
on
then,
that.
Right, just trying to melt the wax.
remember, the teeth have to follow the perimeter, okay? So go almost inside of the wax frame, right?
Yeah.
See? That's it. So, centrals. How we set the centrals? Centrals are the
They're gonna be a little distant.
easiest one. So, again, now you can set the lateral or you can go and try to set the other one. So, let's do the other one. So,
What do you like doing?
I like the centrals first because it gives me the initial reference. You see how I'm trying to do the curvature?
It even
of the
looks like a
shape?
tooth.
But again, I don't spend a lot of time because then I'll start tweaking them a little bit, okay? So with the other side of the instrument,
And it's just gonna stay
you
like
just
that.
push them. So the centrals have to be perfectly parallel to one each other. They should be straight like this. If I look it up like that, it should look straight, okay? So if you see, and don't worry if the crown looks longer, we'll work on that later, but just be sure when I see it, it should be just parallel one to each other. So when I look it up like that in the incisal, they don't do a curve there. So in the incisal edges are completely flat. And then I'll start making my curve on the laterals, okay? So again, they are probably not perfect, but don't worry, we'll start tweaking them later. So now pay attention on the lateral because the lateral is tricky. The axis of the lateral is always distalized, okay? So remember how I burned the wax like that? This wax, you will be a little bit like that. So it will be a little bit distalized. So don't burn yourself like this. And another characteristic is you need to melt more wax on the gingival portion because the laterals are a little bit distalized and the neck of the tooth goes more lingual, let's say. So in order to help you set it up, you see I'm melting my wax more on the gingival portion and I'm doing a lateral axis, okay? So then, make sense? Now my tooth is too flat, so if you see with my curvature, see how off I am? So I need to push this more. So that's what I want you guys to identify. So we'll burn more wax and keep the same angle.
So if we mess up, can we add more wax?
Yeah, you actually will need to melt a lot of wax, especially this wax film is super. Okay. See, I'm following the curvature better now. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so now when I'm a little bit happy with that, I can melt a little bit of this wax just to secure the teeth a little bit. Again, I'm not completely set, but I have the initial setup. See, so it's lingualized, I mean it's distalized and deep on the gingival portion goes in. Now, the hardest tooth.
Annie, no, it's so bad. Don't be mad because he's so good.
My jealousy is uncontrollable.
So now, theoretically, we can do this one, but I want you guys to do it. So what I want to do is set up the canine. The maxillary canine is the hardest tooth to set in a denture. And the reason is because it's very hard. You'll see why. It doesn't actually look like a real canine the way that we set it up. So the canine also goes a little bit distalized, but it needs to make, it's the corner, okay? So when you see your setup like this, your canine needs to look like that. You only can see the mesial portion of the tooth. So it makes a very exaggerated curve. So it's like that and like that. If I look the teeth and they look like this and I can see the distal portion, it's because you guys are not making entirely the curve. So it needs to look almost exaggerated, okay? It's almost like bad, in a bad position. That's why it's hard to set up, because it's hard for you guys to understand the position. Make sense? And also, you see I'm melting the wax in a little bit, pushing the wax from the distal portion. See, when I look it up from there, you see? Now, Dr. Moreno doesn't give you like plates. It's sometimes this. This will be very helpful later. I'll bring my own instruments. Just to be sure the incisal edge and the tip of the canine are touching. The lateral could be normally, let's say 0.5 millimeter shy. That's all preference. You can make it same edge, but don't make the lateral longer, right? On the canine.
You said, so you said it can be the same?
It can be, but most people put it like 0.5 shorter. So then we check with this. You see, we're very close. So again, it looks weird, right? You see, you can only see the mesial part. Make the corner like that. That's critical. It's very hard when you start for first time to match that. Okay?
And then the occlusal surface, what does it look like from the
Yeah, it's because this wax. Maybe that's why we want to put it back in the articulator now. The thing is, her wax ring was shy there. My teeth are great. It's her wax ring is shy. But it's okay. Always try to follow, this. And again, one may be slightly longer than the other, but don't worry too much, because you will try to make them perfect first time. And then when you start melting wax on the other two, they will all move. So as soon as you have the initial setup, then when we finish all 6, we can just play a little bit with them and make them perfect. But for now, like I have them, actually everything's pretty good. I don't think you find someone that's stupid like me. Sorry, I hate to say that. And again, it's just practicing, okay? You want to set another one, or you think it's fine like this?
You can keep going.
Come on. So again, distalize.
So you want us to start with the anterior and you'll do another demo for the...
And then what we should do is, what we can do is, let's set the 6 anteriors. So I guess each of you will set to 3, right? And then when we're done, what we'll do is, I'll do a demo of the mandible ones, okay? So again, a little bit distalized. Maybe that's too much. And then the plastic ruler.
Because they don't have
It
enough
always
teeth.
does it.
It's probably teeth.
Well, they always do.
Any questions?
Because they got big stuff. How much are these teeth? Just curious.
These are very cheap teeth. It's a cheap brand of Ivoclar is a very good brand of teeth, but is Ivoclar or
Turbite.
Turbite? So that's the cheap. You can buy teeth. These are for temporary partials and things like that. So that's why. But the premium teeth can cost you $250. Cheap ones can cost you $50. So.
You're melting wax behind the teeth just to make them more
Yeah,
stable?
later on we'll remove all this wax, okay? So that's why, so now let's see. So, it's too soft the wax, so we'll wait a little bit. Again, this is very easy. It's just, if you understand what you're doing, it's very straightforward. Just
What if our denture patient wants a diastema? We must comply.
any questions?
How far in should we push the teeth? Should we just go until it's stable, or does it matter?
Be sure to go where the perimeter of the wax was, right? And as soon as it's stable, then we'll do what we call this a festooning. We'll work on the gum later.
Okay.
So they will stay. And then, you see, I just want to see that you guys understand that the lateral has the distal axis. The canine eye can only see the mesial surface. And the central, so if I look it up like this, the incisal edges match very well. Make sense? Yep. Any questions? So I think it's better, instead of showing you how good I am, I prefer you guys to do it yourself.